This was a coin toss worth $8 million. When the coin landed, it was heads up for a horse, granting the wealthiest American the first pick. He chose the horse with noble blood, while the aging pregnant mare was left to a housewife who knew nothing about horses. However, on the day of delivery, the foal stood up immediately after birth, stunning the onlookers. Normally, it takes at least half an hour for a newborn foal to stand, but this one displayed an incredible talent for racing right from the start. Jenny decided then and there to stay on the farm and train it into a true steed of 1,000 miles. But her husband forbade her from returning to the farm, insisting that a woman's place is at home, taking care of her husband and children, not pursuing a career like men. However, a phone call shattered Jenny's peaceful life. Her mother had suddenly passed away and her father fell gravely ill from the grief. Now, with the farm neglected, her brother immediately suggested selling it because the horses they bred had not been winning races and they were deep in debt. He had no interest in dealing with the horses anymore. But Jenny firmly opposed selling the farm. She had checked the breeding records. The foal had the potential to change their fortunes, with a father who was a champion of speed and a mother who was a queen of stamina. If the foal could inherit both its sire's speed and its dam's endurance, the farm could see profits in the tens of millions. To ensure the foal received the best training, Jenny hired the only horse trainer in the family, only to find out he was planning to sell the farm for a kickback. Furious, Jenny fired him on the spot and then went alone to the men-only horse club, seeking help from an old friend of her father's. He introduced Jenny to a horse trainer on the verge of retirement, a man in a bright red pajamas who immediately criticized Jenny's lack of knowledge about racing, and even suggested she'd be better off selling the farm and going home to cook and clean.
To get a top trainer, you need a top horse. I have to go back to Bull and see if he has any other ideas.
But right after Jenny left, he regretted his words. After looking through the racing reports, he realized that Jenny's farm had indeed produced a promising horse. He quickly caught up with Jenny, who hadn't gone far, and offered to train the foal himself, leaving Jenny overwhelmed with emotion. From then on, Jenny began a life of traveling between two places. When her father's legacy was on the brink of turning to dust and rust, she chose to stand tall, raising a high flag and taking on all the responsibilities and hopes by herself. However, her husband often complained about her priorities, while Jenny argued that she was just like a horse. After graduating from college, she had always wanted to carve out her own path, but marriage had branded her with a routine life. The dreams and excitement of her youth faded away, and her husband couldn't understand Jenny's ambitions. 2 years flew by and the once small foal was now ready to race. Touching Big Red, the phrase seemed more directed at Jenny's father, encouraging her to chase her dreams bravely. But at the moment, Big Red did nothing but eat and sleep, earning the nickname Giant Baby from the trainer. Showing no sign of its extraordinary talents, it ran leisurely, making the trainer's job quite challenging. To awaken Big Red's natural instinct to run, they entered him in a horse race. On the day of his debut, he was officially named Secretariat, after Jenny's profession before marriage, which was a secretary. Before the race, Jenny burst into uncontrollable laughter, leaving everyone around her bewildered.
I just realized that's the first time I've laughed.
For Jenny, though her career might be nearing its twilight, for Secretariat his undying belief and glory were just beginning. However, the race started off with a setback for Jenny, as the inexperienced jockey, hesitant and timid, ended the race prematurely by crashing into another horse. Furious, the trainer scolded the jockey for being a coward, believing that they were capable of much more. The path to chasing dreams is always fraught with risks and they needed a fearless rider. Jenny agreed with the trainer's perspective but disapproved of his harsh approach.
I'm new to this, and you know a lot more about it than I do. But don't ever say this is none of my business. Every bit of this is my business.
Though Jenny might not have been knowledgeable about horse racing, she possessed remarkable execution skills. That very evening, she met with another jockey, known for his fiery temper and for cursing at vehicles blocking his way even while leaning on crutches. Jenny saw in him the ambition to win, but she was also concerned about his reckless streak, as he had previously overworked a horse to the point of heart failure, a fact he bluntly acknowledged.
I risk my life every time I climb on a horse. I'm not afraid. Neither are they. I want to win just like they do. It's true. That's who they are. And it's who I am. You want somebody else? Get somebody else.
I don't want somebody else. I want you.
This trio formed a team, and Secretariat entered his second championship race. The spectators jeered at Jenny, doubting Secretariat's ability and denying he inherited his father's speed. But Jenny had unwavering faith in Secretariat, as her farm couldn't afford to lose any more races. As the race began, Secretariat lagged behind, cautious not to repeat the previous race's mistake. The trainer in the stands lost confidence and the new jockey showed no aggression. But in the next moment, Secretariat burst into action, quickly overtaking one opponent after another with a fierce determination. Jenny watched nervously from the stands, her breath steady and deep, matching the rhythmic pace of her horse charging towards victory.
Myron, Secretariat taking the lead as they come to the wire.
Secretariat ultimately won the race by 2 lengths, silencing the doubters. Jenny won her first trophy, and Secretariat, basking in the spotlight, seemed to relish his newfound celebrity status. From this victory, the champion duo surged forward, winning 7 short-distance championships in a row. From being overlooked to becoming the center of attention, Journalists vied for interviews wherever they went. However, some critics claimed that Secretariat could only excel in short distances, citing his father's lineage as solely speed-oriented, with no precedent for a horse excelling in both speed and endurance. In response to these doubts, Secretariat made his feelings quite clear in an unconventional manner, marking a reporter in protest. That year, Secretariat was crowned Horse of the Year. The trainer cautioned Jenny not to become complacent, as Secretariat had a formidable opponent known for incredible endurance and an unbeaten record in long-distance races. Just as Jenny was gearing up to challenge this rival with Secretariat, her father fell critically ill and was hospitalized. Jenny softly shared Secretariat's triumphs at her father's bedside. Following her father's passing, Jenny not only faced the pressure of competition, but also the burden of a $6 million inheritance tax. Her brother and husband rushed to the farm, but instead of offering comfort, her brother urged her to sell Secretariat. Based on Secretariat's current popularity, he could be sold for $8 million, which would cover the inheritance tax and leave some money for a comfortable life. However, losing any subsequent race could render Secretariat worthless. Jenny firmly declined, committed to her promise to her father to care for Secretariat and unwilling to give up her dreams. Her brother angrily confronted Jenny, threatening legal action if she didn't sell. Unperturbed, Jenny called for the butler, revealing a will signed by their father in lucid moments. The estate was left to her brother, but Secretariat was Jenny's alone. Her brother couldn't understand her unwavering dedication.
This is about life being ahead of you, and you run at it. Because you never know how far you can go unless you run.
As her husband left, he lamented that Jenny didn't act like a married woman, pointing out that phone calls were for Ms. Jenny instead of Mrs. Tweedy. Jenny firmly responded that she had already given up her dreams once for marriage and wouldn't let them slip away again. Sharing the same indomitable spirit as Secretariat, both hungry for victory and eager for challenges. To pay the inheritance tax, Jenny innovated by syndicating Secretariat, dividing ownership into 32 shares at $190,000 each, aiming to raise the needed $6 million. But investors, focused solely on profit, hesitated as Secretariat hadn't competed in the Triple Crown races yet. Despite Jenny's confidence, she couldn't secure an investment, leading to her breakdown at her father's favorite stable, where his words inspired her with resilience.
Care how many times they tell us we can't do it. I am not giving up. I will not live the rest of my life in regret. We are going to see that horse run. And win!
She approached the coin-toss billionaire pleading for an investment. He was there to buy Secretariat, but Jenny proposed a win-win. Invest in Secretariat to achieve the Triple Crown. The billionaire doubted her, noting no horse had won all 3 races in 3 weeks in 25 years, especially a 3-year-old like Secretariat who hadn't run more than 1.5 miles. The billionaire offered $7 million, then $8 million for Secretariat, but Jenny held firm, believing his worth would skyrocket to at least $18 million with the Triple Crown. Moved by Jenny's conviction, the billionaire led the investment at $6 million. However, her husband, far from being supportive, warned he wouldn't take such risks. At the Triple Crown's preliminary race, Secretariat, Jenny's all-in bet, started in last place. Expectations were high for his usual comeback, but something was amiss. Secretariat struggled to breathe and couldn't overtake his competitors, finishing third. The billionaire cautioned Jenny that a second failure wouldn't be an accident. Critics and disgruntled bettors accused Secretariat of lacking endurance, and the once-praised horse and rider now faced scorn. Devastated, Jenny unleashed her frustration on the jockey, despite her strong exterior hiding a fragile heart. This was a loss they couldn't afford. In despair, Jenny wept in a phone booth, her once bright path to success now seemingly a descent into hell. She felt lost and afraid, forced to maintain a facade of strength. But the defeat wasn't the jockey's fault. A discovered abscess in Secretariat's mouth was to blame. Learning this, Jenny hurriedly apologized to the jockey, who was on the verge of quitting. On the eve of the Triple Crown races, the abscess in Secretariat's mouth had healed, yet he showed no interest in eating, and his training pace was barely half of his usual speed. Winning under these conditions seemed like a fantasy. The journey with horses is challenging, marked by the highs and lows of competition and the scrutiny of the media. Jenny visited the training field, seeking a moment alone with Secretariat. She looked at him with unwavering determination, and Secretariat, seemingly understanding her hopes, blinked back as if to signal his readiness. That night he began to eat, devouring 2 buckets of feed to the delight of his caretaker, who shouted with joy toward the racecourse.
Big old Red done ate his breakfast this morning, and you're about to see something, so get ready!
The first battle of the Triple Crown commenced, with Secretariat regaining his former grace. He posed for photos with fans and seemed nonchalant about the race, while his owner Jenny was fraught with anxiety, knowing she couldn't afford to lose. The jockey clenched his fists as the gates burst open. Secretariat, true to form, started last, showing no signs of overtaking. The trainer couldn't bear to watch as Secretariat showed no effort halfway through the race. Jenny pulled him back, insisting they watch till the end, even as their competitors celebrated early. In the sprint phase, Secretariat surged like a beast awakened, pushing through the pain to overtake his rivals one by one. He couldn't let down Jenny, moving up to the side of a stamina-based contender. In a moment they were neck and neck, but Secretariat quickly gained a lead of 1, then 2 lengths.
It's Secretariat!
Secretariat won the race by 2 lengths, bringing relief to Jenny. They secured the first crown of the Triple Crown, and Secretariat became a sensation. As the second race approached, the nation watched, including Jenny's family, with Secretariat starting at the back, possibly affected by the previous race's collision. Though her husband had been unsupportive, seeing Secretariat win the second crown made him understand why Jenny never gave up on her dreams. She was proving something to her past self and setting an example for their children. However, the real challenge was the third race, a 24,000-meter test that had defeated many who won the first 2 crowns. This was the ultimate challenge for Secretariat, known for his speed. The trainer considered extreme training to boost Secretariat's spirit, risking his future. At the pre-race press conference, the owner of a competitor made bold claims about enduring the long race, which Jenny mocked confidently. The competitor's owner left the conference angrily, while Jenny comforted Secretariat in the stable. Regardless of the next day's outcome, having fought hard was already a perfect achievement.
I made it here. I didn't quit. I've run my race. Now you run yours.
The climactic race arrived, with the crowd eager to witness a historic moment. In the 90 heat, Secretariat was eager to prove himself. The trainer instructed the jockey to prioritize Secretariat's safety over winning, mindful of his well-being. As Secretariat entered the racetrack, all the spectators stood up cheering for him. This time, Secretariat faced only 5 opponents, but the real challenge was from the competitor known as the Deceiver. Unlike his usual strategy, Secretariat didn't fall behind at the start of the race but quickly secured a prime position, causing concern among the audience as this was an unusual tactic for him. Perhaps Secretariat used to enjoy the thrill of overtaking, but today he didn't want to chase, he wanted to be the one chased. This excited the Deceiver's owner, thinking that if Secretariat exhausted his energy early, the Deceiver would easily clinch the victory. However, Secretariat defied expectations, not only maintaining his lead but also accelerating first by 4 lengths, then 6. As the race approached the final turn, everyone anticipated Secretariat's figure, fearing he might have pushed himself too hard. Suddenly, a blue streak burst out of the turn. At that moment, Secretariat was no longer racing against his opponents but was challenging the track's historical records. Secretariat won by an unprecedented 31 lengths, a record that remains unbroken to this day. Jenny's success was not just a product of her intelligence. She never gave up on her inherent talent, which, despite being buried for a long time, awakened midway through her life. This story reminds us to always keep a champion's heart, for as long as we don't give up on ourselves, fortune's favor may one day return. Thanks for watching. Make sure you subscribe and turn on notifications so you can watch more videos like this.